You're listening to the ShireFit Podcast. This series, Max and Jonny explore how to become the master of your mindset.
Right, here we go, team. We're back for another ShireFit Podcast. This series is all about mindset. Me and Jonny are here to tackle another fitness concept, this time looking at Ironmen or marathon runners, Ironman. Iron woman, do they change that nowadays?
I don't think they have it as Iron people yet,
Iron
but
people.
I can imagine that will be the future.
Yeah, we have a listener question as our warm-up from Ben Westerby, and the workout is a mindset cue about how to react or respond to difficult situations. Of course, got Jonny next to me to help pick through these difficult topics. Our first part of the podcast every week is going to be a warm-up question from a listener, and this week's warm-up question is from Ben Westerby. It is, what's your biggest challenge that you've faced, and how did your mindset help or hinder you? Shall I go first, Jonny?
Yeah, you can do, because as we were discussing before, I'm just not really sure what mine could be. I've got a couple that I could bring in.
Jonny's being really humble and saying that he never had any difficult challenges, but forgetting that he's done some quite crazy things. I've got two really big ones that stand out to me, and I wasn't really sure which one to choose because I don't think my mindset was all that good when I had these challenges, to be honest, but I'll try and pick through it. So the one that stands out to me was this rat race event that we did whilst I was in the process of joining the army with some friends, and it was a race across Scotland in a day. It's from Nairn, which is right in the top right-hand corner of Scotland, down to the bottom left-hand corner to a place called Glencoe. And was it Glencoe or Fort William? Can't remember. Bottom left-hand corner of Scotland. And it was accumulated about 100 miles of cycling, about 30 miles of running, and about 4 miles of kayaking. But it was all broken up. It was a really cool event.
So, just at random times, you did those different things to get across the stage.
Yeah. So you opened with like a 7-mile run.
Oh right.
And then the bikes were there.
Yeah.
And then you biked for like 30 miles.
Yeah.
And then you ran again for another 4 miles. And
right.
Then you kayaked for 2.
And then was there another set of cycles? So it wasn't your own equipment.
They kept moving the event. They moved the bikes forward.
That's cool.
Which was really cool.
Yeah, so it's not like a try where it's one after the other.
Yeah, okay. They moved them down the country for you, and every time you come off, your bike was there. This was obviously quite a difficult challenge because of the longevity. I mean, it's quite a lot of volume, and it's in Scotland, and the conditions were Scottish. Let's just describe it as that. So
piss poor.
Yeah, raining, wind, like awful, and the biggest challenge that actually happened was we kind of messed up in the race preparation. We did some very rudimentary research, and we were looking, and it said you don't want to have a road bike because it's too fragile. Part of the race is going to have some trails, some mountain biking, and you'll need a bike that can withstand that. So it said ideally you get yourself a hybrid, one of these like mix between
the worst of both worlds.
Yeah. Or you get yourself a mountain bike. Worst case scenario, get a mountain bike because you don't want your bike to break halfway through. So we're like, right, look to the hybrids. Too expensive. We'll get a mountain bike.
Yeah.
So anyway, we get to the start line in there, and it's on the beach. 3, 2, 1, go, it's called. And we were pretty fit at the time, like not being big-headed or anything, but we'd just come off the back of some marathon training, some ultras, our group of friends, and we set off racing each other. It was lads, boys banter, like trying to beat each other. We set off at a stupid pace.
Right.
The first 7 miles was ridiculous. I think we run it at like some 7-minute miles pace or something. Given the
fact that you've got to do a huge thing.
It was ridiculous, yeah. So anyway, me and Josh with this lad, we get to the bikes stand 7 miles in first. Literally of the whole race, and there's professional guys. There was a guy in a Sky GB, suit.
Right.
Like he was he was a professional. He's been paid to do this. So we finished. We beat him to the bikes, which is stupid. Yeah.
Win the warm up.
Yeah, exactly. We were that guy. Anyway, get there, jump on our bikes, start cycling, and literally, mate, every single person was on a road bike.
Right.
And they were zipping past us, and we're going, can't wait till the trails come up. Yeah. Because they're going to get smashed. We've read the rules and we've read the advice and everything. turns out that of the 100 miles of cycling, about 300 meters was trail.
Right,
Yeah. So everyone road biked, and then literally when they got to the trail, they just put the bike on their shoulders and ran.
Okay, yeah, because they're very light as well, aren't they? Road bikes.
Exactly. Yeah. So like we started this first cycle, and these, mate, I'm not joking, elderly women were zipping past us on their road bikes, just. And we were just like dropping back and back and back, and just the longevity of being on a bike. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. Like, it was more that it wasn't the like the aerobic fatigue. It was the pain of my like gooch.
Right. So the saddle, not just like the lower back and the stooped position as well.
Yeah. Oh, that as well.
That
but
too
like,
really builds.
Like, it was just it was excruciating. I remember trying to like position my body. Like, so I was sat across the crossbeam, not on the seat, because I couldn't handle the seat anymore, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
It was brutal. And
were you wearing cycling shorts?
No.
Oh, you're right.
Didn't have Vaseline. Like, stupid, mate. Just idiots.
Yeah.
Absolute idiots.
Right.
And yeah, it was just a pain. So I remember, like, and this is why I remember it as my biggest challenge, because this is actually a genuine thought process that I had. So I wasn't a quitter, and I knew in my head I wasn't a quitter, right? And I was like, I'm not going to quit this event, but I was in so much pain that I was looking at one point. You're sort of cycling along these roads, quite fast roads, like 40-mile-an-hour roads, and I was thinking, I was looking at those cars driving by, and I thought, if I just ride into one of them and get knocked off the bike, that's the end of the event for me. You know, my bike's broke and I'm probably injured, but at least I don't then have to carry on. And I was genuinely wrestling with that thought in my head, like, I'll just ride into one of these bikes to end it, because I just didn't want to do the event anymore.
It'd be over.
Anyway, so I suppose here I should go into how did my mindset help. Number one, the mindset was like, I'm not going to quit. Like, the tool I used for that is like my own perception of myself is I'm not a quitter. I'm not a person who starts an event and doesn't finish it. So I carried on. Number two, I just broke it down. I think that's one of the biggest things that people can do in terms of mindset. Difficult situations, difficult workouts, whether it's a 5-minute workout or a 3-hour workout, break it down to the next thing. And I just broke it down. I just said, right, get to the next run. And I got there, and I was like, right, get to the next paddle, get to the next food station, I just was breaking it down in my head as much as possible, and I was just getting to the next thing. And then eventually I made it to the end of the event. It was like 24 hours of slog, but we got there. And I think that was probably the only thing that got me through the event, was just being able to focus on the next, because I couldn't at 50 miles in, knowing I had 70 miles still to go and another probably 3 hours on the bike when I was in such excruciating pain, I couldn't think about that.
No.
I just had to think about do the next 20 minutes and get off your bike, you know.
Yeah.
And I think if I had I know it's this whole cliche of being absorbed in the moment, but if I had thought about what I had left, I wouldn't have carried on.
No.
So yeah,
that was a massive amount.
That was my biggest challenge. What about yours?
Yeah, I mean, because this is what we were chatting about before. Because for me, I've never done anything that's massively long in duration. I've just never done it. You know, the longest thing that I've done from a physical perspective is, I mean, the biggest thing I've ever done is probably like a multiple day individual CrossFit comp, where you've got to warm up, train, cool down, warm up, train, cool down, warm up. And the hardest one of that was probably when I was in Brussels, because of the sheer variety of the workouts. And like, you went in on the second day and it was the day before the cut, and you just and this was when it was just held in like Reebok CrossFit Brussels, so it wasn't, you know, in the big arenas and stuff that you see now. It was 2014, I think, and there were just rowers all over the gym floor, and you were just like, oh no. And the first event before the cut was like, right, you just got to do an 8k row for time. And there's one thing doing an 8k row when you're just having a nice row, but like to do it when you're amongst loads of, exactly, like imagine the marathon row at the CrossFit Games, but not that bad. But then having to do that, you know, a day after a competition, and then do another bunch of events that were all, you know, that's probably the hardest thing in terms of like overall physical capacity. But other than that, it was like a sprint triathlon, which is only an hour and a half of work, really. Obviously, you've got to swim, bike, run. I've done different CrossFit comps where, I mean, similar to your kind of like equipment issue, when I did the Manchester Games back in I think this was 2013. Right, it was. We knew that there was going to be an open water swim, right, and but we didn't know what it was going to be about, like how long or anything. So everyone's like, right, everyone make sure you get a wetsuit. And I was just like, I don't know if I'll be able to move like well in a wetsuit. And someone said to me, why don't you just get a tri-suit? And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. So I got a tri-suit, right? Not realising that the tri-suit is what fits under the wetsuit, that you then obviously take the wetsuit off so you can you stay in the triathlon suit for the rest of the thing, for the cycling and running. And obviously I used my tri-suit for my actual triathlon, which was a couple of years later. But for this, I was like, yeah, I'll just go in a tri-suit. I turned up in Manchester with just my tri-suit, and it was a 750 metre open water swim and then 75 burpees for time.
You must have been freezing.
I was the only one who was not in a full wetsuit. It was, so literally I hit the water and was like freezing cold, sinking, trying to swim with all of these people that were basically gliding past me because they anyway. But the thing that I have done is, last year and the year before, I've done some things for November, the male charity. In the month of November, I tried to grow a mustache, can't really grow one. So physically,
it was pathetic.
It is bad. Yeah, and I take that on the chin. It's very bad. Year before, I ran 10k every day, and then this year, just gone, I ran 11k every day. And I'm quite quick to kind of play it down, because again, it's like, it's around an hour of running. It's like not that big of a deal. But obviously, to do that every day, my recovery was non-existent.
Yeah, mate, it's big that.
Woke up every day.
It's a daunting challenge to run that every day.
Your recovery is getting worse and worse and worse. I had a period in both months when I was quite ill.
Yeah.
And
not like you're a runner that runs all the time, do you? CrossFit, and that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I do. It is a big challenge.
And even now, I don't think you could really call it CrossFit. I very much come in and lift. Yeah. So it's like, I don't run a lot. And my knees started to hurt, my ankles started to hurt. Yeah. And the times that I got pretty sick as well, like there was definitely 2 days where the only thing I did was the run that day. And thankfully I'm self-employed. I was able to move some things around and was able to rest. And in terms of mindset, kind of helping that, I think for me it was useful to have a greater cause than myself.
Yeah, I love that. A good why.
Yeah, because I would never recommend that you do that ever. Like the thing that you just did there and the thing that I just did there, they're definitely physical challenges that you can do if you want to either raise money for charity or to kind of put your body through like a test or to even improve your mental game. It's not like you do that for training, because it's like what we spoke about last week, training versus competition. Yeah. And for me, the fact that I was doing it for a cause greater than myself, men's mental health, men's physical health is what Movember started as. The fact they've moved it to a mental health capacity as well is a big thing for me. And so that was very easy for me to then just zone out. And what you spoke about there in terms of breaking it down, massive help. Let's just do the next K, do the next K, do the next K. Listening to music, listening to audiobooks. A great way that I positioned it was like, wow, this is such a great opportunity for me to have an hour and a half to myself every day. With the warm up and cool down and stuff.
Yeah, trying to be positive with it.
Yeah, where I can like listen to a podcast or listen to a book and like do these, have this time to myself that I never normally have because I'm always too busy, working out and speaking to other people or doing client calls or a lot of my life is giving to other people in the profession that I'm in. So it's good to kind of reposition it that way. So breaking it down, thinking about a cause bigger than yourself, those are definitely the two key things.
No, I like that. The why is huge, isn't it? People do these incredible things, ridiculous challenges.
Oh, I mean, if you think about running,
fueled on why only.
Yeah, because I think it was the month I was doing 10k a month. And then we read somewhere that some guy was doing a marathon every day.
Kevin Sinfield, probably.
That's made me feel. Yeah. But obviously to him, that's a massive thing. And to me, doing 10k a day was a massive thing. So it doesn't take away the achievement for me. Because it's relative to the person who's taking part in that.
Incredible segue.
Go on.
To the strength section, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So the strength section today, guys, which is always going to be our take on a popular fitness concept. Today's one is that running an Ironman, I suppose you don't run an Ironman, but completing an Ironman or running a marathon makes you mentally tough. So we're going to kind of break that down and unpack it. And in my short answer of this is I don't think it does, actually.
No, and it's not. I think we need to instantly caveat that to say it's not like it's not an achievement. Yeah. We're not trying to take away from anybody's achievement of doing these things, because completing a long distance event is a challenging thing, just like completing a double body weight deadlift or 1.5 body weight back squat are incredible achievements.
They're good achievements, yeah.
But it is worth saying that, as you said, doing that in itself won't instantly make you mentally tough.
Yeah. My point from this comes from experience. So again, like I feel like I'm one of them old military guys who always goes on about their time in the military when I didn't actually serve that long or do anything. But yeah, I saw this a lot when I was doing recruit training in Catterick, where I was in charge of recruits, and you get these really talented and really, fit, robust recruits that turn up on day one. And you look into their background and they've been, county running champions and they've done all these like incredible things athletically. And you think, oh, these guys are going to smash it. You label him as like these people who are going to sail through parachute regiment training. And on the flip side, you get these other lads who have just, turned up. They've done a little bit of training beforehand, enough that they need to get into the army, and you see nothing special about them mentally. And you think, well, maybe they're going to struggle. And it often turns out the other way around. So the people with the talent, the people who are super fit, the people who arrive, in good condition seem to struggle, because when they're used to doing well, they're used to going to physical events and being, competent and pushing. And so when, inevitably at some point along the journey in parachute regiment training, something's going to get hard. It's a part of the process. Something's going to go wrong. Something's going to get hard. You're not going to be, fit enough to handle everything.
Yeah.
Those people tend to crumble because they've not had that experience of things being difficult and having the grit to work through them, or the mental skills to get around that.
Yeah, massively.
Whereas the guys who potentially haven't breezed through life, haven't found things easy, when they're hit with those hurdles, they know how to get around them.
Yes.
They get around the obstacles. And I think applying that to the original concept, which is about these Ironmans and marathons, it could make you mentally tough. It could mean that you're mentally tough, but if you've trained for a marathon, you've done lots of aerobic runs, you're in good condition, you've always been good at running, you turn up and do a marathon, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're super mentally strong.
It's a different achievement to someone that hasn't done it.
Exactly.
And to go back to your point about these people that come into the recruitment and that maybe they've sailed through life or never had to struggle, it's also a thing about upbringing and language, because there's a big difference between people who have been told, oh my God, you're so naturally intelligent. Oh, look at like that score in maths that you just got, or like, oh wow, like you're so good at football. And then you get your self-worth wrapped up in your achievement, but you also think that these things should come naturally to you and that you don't have to work. And then when things are difficult, you're unlikely to do it because you don't want to be shown up. And so your default then is to not try, because then you have an excuse. Yeah. And both my brother and I fell privy to that, and are aware of it now. Going back to your segment about, hey, if you've always been a runner, these things have come really natural to you, and then you run a marathon, hey, it's still a massive achievement. But it's, we do have to bring that up in terms of like people's essences, their backgrounds, their genetics, and what they've been predisposed to. It's like me having grown up as a big rugby playing guy who's always been strong and genetically puts on muscle easily. It doesn't take away from my achievement that I go to the gym 3 to 5 times a week and have done for the last 15 years, and therefore I'm strong. But someone else could put in that same time and not achieve the same thing. Doesn't take away from the process.
Doesn't mean that they're not mentally strong.
Exactly. So therefore, actually, if they put in more work or more effort or all of those things, like me training for a marathon, that can provide a lot of mental toughness because I'm doing something that's actually very against my natural like essence and genetic, and also my upbringing. To then overcome those hurdles and still achieve something that really I'm not like as naturally designed to do.
Yeah, I think applying to the original sort of, the statement running an Ironman or marathon makes you mentally tough is obviously a kind of play. It leads us to define what mental toughness is. And if I was to try and define that, I'd say it's how you react to adversity, how you react to difficult situations, and what tools you've got in the locker to be able to get through them. Not necessarily what the achievement is. We're separating the achievement, right? And that might mean for someone who just runs a 10k, given that they've had no running experience, maybe like yourself, all they've done is played rugby, all they've done is, lift weights, and they go out and get sucked into a 10k, and they 5k in, their shins start to hurt, their knees start to hurt, and they respond. I would say that's equally as mentally tough as someone who's run all their life, feels awesome, does 50k a week, and then goes and does a marathon.
Yeah. It's about
a relative achievement,
and it comes back to our point that we spoke about last week around the process rather than the outcome and the achievement. And as you said, it's your mental toughness is your ability to respond and your ability to do what is right and good for you. Like, it's that combination of self-compassion to a point where people need to understand kind of what that really means, but then the ability to do the thing that's right for you, and be resilient, and to respond in the situation with the right action.
Yeah. Which moves us on then finally, guys, to our workout this week, which is more of a mindset cue or some sort of strategy than it is theory. So what we want to give you here is something practical and something that you can actually take away and apply. And the cue comes from Jocko Willink. I've literally stolen this straight from him. If you don't know who Jocko is, he's this big burly, Navy SEAL guy. How do you describe Jocko? Ugly as sin. does jiu-jitsu 4 hours a day, gets up at 4 a.m, drinks black coffee, just like your tough
military man.
Military man.
You are going into your stereotype here.
No, I'm not. No. What do you mean? Why that stood out to me? No, I'm joking. And something that I've stolen from him, which I actually listened to him talk about this concept, and I'm trying to apply it to us and our members, which is his concept of don't listen to the first report. What Jocko means by that is he's talking about military situations where, not that I've actually done this for real, by the way, disclaimer, but when you get shot at in the military, or they call it a contact, the first thing that you do is you send a situation report back to your, or contact report back to your line manager or your boss, say, for example. And generally those reports are a little bit exaggerated, probably a little bit emotional, and they're generally not true, false. So the general's job, who's listening further back, or the major's job, whoever's job it is to listen to that report, is to try and, yes, understand the situation, but also take things with a pinch of salt, because as things turn out, they're probably not as bad as we think. And this concept applies not just in war and in battle, it applies in life as well. So some examples, like lifetime examples, is one, for example, that happened to my brother recently, where they just got a brand new car, and his wife was out driving, and she sadly clipped the curb and hit the tyre. She rang him and said, it was a brand new car, and it was like 2 weeks old, and she rang him and said, I've just smashed the car against the curb. So my brother's gone, from 0 to 100 mile an hour, and he's, God, the car's going to be written off, and how much money, it's going to be thousands of pounds, and all these, thoughts are running through his head. And then he has to say to himself, look, don't listen to the first report, it's probably not that bad. And when he goes to actually see her and help her out of the situation, that alloy's cracked, the wheel's deflated, it's a couple £100, it's not a big deal. Those situations happen all the time, don't they? I was thinking another one, maybe more down your line of work, Johnny, would be like, I don't know, maybe you say a line wrong in a show, or you sing something out of tune. You're gonna go, your head's gonna go, never, not you. Like your head's gonna go, I fucked it. It's I've made a big mistake here.
You can't do that in live theatre. Something goes wrong every day, every time. Honestly, every show,
really?
Every show something went wrong in every show I've ever done.
And
my
you have
microphone
to just
fell out of my pocket and just like cracked against the deck.
Was that the one that I was watching?
No, that happened there, and in the last one I
maybe
just
you
did
need bigger
as well.
pockets, mate.
Well, it's because I had 2 in this last show. But luckily that one was my backup.
Yeah.
And it was a scene where I had to take my shirt off. And I literally took my shirt off and stood up off the thing, and then my microphone just hit the deck. and luckily, the woman who I was like acting in the scene with, she just like picked it up alongside like the shirt I'd just taken off, as if she was cleaning up.
Yeah.
So it managed to kind of like
nice.
cover it up.
Yeah.
And it was my backup, so it didn't, it doesn't make a big deal. But yeah, you've just got to.
Yeah.
That happens every.
The other thing I was thinking about this in terms of application to our real members is like maybe, comments like not like gossip or like comments on social media, little things like that, where someone says like, oh, you know, someone comments something nasty, and kind of like jump into that conclusion, reacting, that person hates me, I never get on with them. Those little like reactions, probably not the case, and that person's probably just had a bad day, or maybe has not realised the intention of what they've said or something like that, just trying to react to it better.
Yeah, I mean, written communication is the like mother of all evils, because you can never actually get the right attention across, and when you read it from someone else, you never know how they've intended to make that statement. And if someone is being genuinely like nasty, you kind of have to rise above that to see it's much more of a indicator of like their current, as you said, mental state than yours. You know, like they've had a bad day or what have you. I think as well with the members here and kind of replying this like first report, you know, when you have a bad day and you come in and you have a really bad workout, or you miss lifts, or you know, you're just feeling really sluggish, you know, you've had like no sleep, or you've got like loads of extra stress at work, it's easy to start catastrophizing, or pointing the blame at things that are the simplest answer, like, oh, you know, I'm not getting any better, I'm not getting any stronger, this workout's not working, or like, oh, you know, it's because I had that pizza last night, or like, you know,
the pizza's fault,
I need to go on a diet, or I need to do, you know, I need to snap out of this or whatever. And then when you actually reflect on your week as a whole, you're like, oh yeah, I've got a really, really rough report at work. I've been pulling like extra long days. You know, kids haven't been sleeping very well. You know, I've been clenching my teeth in my sleep. Been getting up several times in the night. Not been drinking a lot of water. Not really like eating a lot at all. You know, not regularly. Not recovering. Not eating like regularly. And then this is the only session I've had this week. It's like, oh, okay. So actually, it's the whole of the things, and it's just a bad day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I see it a lot in the gym as well with injuries. So people like tweak something, or you know, they'll feel something that doesn't feel right.
So even if it's not an injury, it might just be an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, I don't know what you'd call it, but
a tweak or
something like that. That's actually not going to be a big issue, but people first reaction to that is, oh, that's it, that's my training's gone for 8 weeks now, and I'm halfway through this progression, and I'm going to miss I'm going to miss the competition in the end of June, and all these little like thoughts start to spiral. And there's a really important reason why we have to wrestle that reaction back, right? And that's that your body has a physiological response to that negative mindset.
Yeah.
You know, like if you hit the roof, you panic about these things, you're actually going to have some physiological responses. Your cortisol is going to rise, your recovery is going to drop, your inflammation will go more. You're going to end up in a worse situation than if you actually just go, you know what, I've tweaked something. That happens. You know, people tweak things, probably be all right in the morning, or I'll see what I feel like next week, you know.
Yes. You brought up a good point there, Max, actually, because a lot of people don't think about it that way, that you just said there about the fight or flight response kicking in. And actually that's a really key part of, emotional regulation, and also really tuning into your body to find out what's actually happened. So like we might get a tweak or a weird feeling, and that is so totally natural for human beings who are like active and are putting their body through physical training and like new movements and things like that. Like you literally might just get a bit of a tweak in the back of your knee because you've been doing a lot of squatting, and like, oh, okay, like that's a bit interesting. And you can just kind of say like, okay, I'll put an eye on it, do my next set of squats. If it's hurting, I'll stop squatting for now, or take the weight down, see how it feels. Okay, it's still hurting. Yeah, I'm gonna stop that for now. Let's go do something else, or let's just go home and like I'll walk it off and see how I feel tomorrow. But if you catastrophize that and be like, oh yeah, man, I've injured myself. Like, oh, let's Google the symptoms. Oh my God, this is saying that I've ruptured like the back of my knee tendon. I'm gonna need surgery. As you said, like that's a full-on fight or flight response, and you are now telling yourself that story that you've injured yourself. And pain is so interesting. The psychosomatic relationship of pain, because sometimes there's a bit of a pain response there because your body might be protecting yourself from an injury, or it's worried because there's been an injury there on that previous pattern in the past that you now need to retrain. But the story you tell yourself there can really kick up a good response. And there's a good book on that which is called The Body Keeps the Score, which is all about that like trauma, pain, and the fight or flight response that you could be constantly living in, because from emotional regulation there's like work to be done there.
There's another one actually talking about missed lifts that Jack's reading at the moment called The Expectation Effect.
Oh right.
Which talks about how there is a physiological response to pressure,
Yeah.
either good or bad, depending on your the expectation you're putting on yourself. So, again, similar symptoms, but cortisol is higher, and one of the points is that you lose fluidity. Essentially, the movements don't flow as well because you're stressed and you're worried and you're sort of tight.
Yeah.
And that has a genuine impact on, let's say, for example, we keep talking about snatches, but let's say, for example, snatches. And so when, for example, you come in on Monday and it's snatches and you snatch and it just don't feel good, let's not don't trust the first
You just have bad days
report,
sometimes. Yeah.
and go, I'm rubbish at snatching, I'm never going to be good at this, the cycle's not worked for me, blah blah. Just go, you know what, it's not my day today, maybe next week will be better.
It goes back to what we spoke about last week in that confidence. You strike while the iron is hot, and if it's not, you take it back, strip it back, and make sure you're moving well. We talk about snatches a lot, and there's been a week where I've PB'd, and then the very next week, same day of the week, pretty similar circumstances all around, 20 kilos lighter than that's feeling like absolute crust.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I just need to
crispy.
take... Yeah,
that's what we like to say. How you feeling? Crispy.
Yeah, I call it crusty. Yeah. So it's like, right, I've just got to strip it back. I've got to focus on my movement. I'm not feeling too hot today. I don't start thinking, oh man, I can't snatch.
Yeah, I've lost it. I've lost my strength in a week.
Exactly. People do it with muscle ups.
Yeah.
Do a muscle up one week, next week they're like, I can't get it. I've lost it. I've lost it.
Yeah.
And it's just having a bad day.
Yeah.
Go back to how it feels. Go back to, the kinesthetic awareness piece of the movement. Stop overthinking every little arm pull, kip swing, pulled my hips too far up or my arms too low down. Go back to how it felt. Or it's just a bad day. Do some progression work instead.
Yeah.
Come back another day with more confidence.
How have you found this plays out when it comes to things being announced in your time through CrossFit, Jonny? So
events,
workouts, events, open workouts, for example. How can you apply don't listen to the first report to that?
Yeah, it's a great question, because if you see something that comes up that you're not as good at, you can easily talk yourself into a poor performance. And I think what helped me was I had proof that even when an event came up that maybe I didn't like at first glance, it didn't mean necessarily that I was going to do badly at that event.
Yeah.
And that the only thing that I could then control was going in with a game plan, feeling confident about what I was doing, and making sure I did it my way.
Yeah.
So 2 events like that. One was CrossFit Open 2015 second one, and it was like you had 4 minutes to do 2 rounds of 10 overhead squats and 10 chest to bar pull-ups at 42.5 kilos, and then if you did that within the 4 minutes, you got another 4 minutes, and it went 2 rounds of 12 and 12, 14, 14.
And it went up again, didn't it?
So for me, on paper, I could have been like, chest to bar pull-ups I'm crap at, but I went in with the game plan of breaking it into 2 sets every time, because overhead squats actually I'm quite good at. So I always did my chest to bars in negative splits, so 6-4, 6-4, and then 7-5, 7-5, always did a higher set and a lower set.
Yeah.
And I got to the round of 18s, shredded my hands in the process, but it was my best open score. I was like 97th or something in Europe. On paper, I would have hated that workout.
So your reaction wasn't justified in that when you actually got into it. It wasn't as bad as you thought.
Yeah, so for me then, because that was quite early in that sport, it was able for me to say, if you get a workout that looks like all of your garbage on paper, you can't respond in that way. Yeah. Because then you're going to go in and you're going to perform like garbage. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy, that pressure of expectation. If you go in with that mindset, you're going to prove it to yourself, and you'd be like, see, told you. Yeah. But what if you went in with a different story? What if okay, this is a weakness of mine, but I've been working a lot on this, and actually I've got a game plan of breaking it down. And as long as I break it down and I do these things, then I followed my game plan, and that to me is a success, regardless of the outcome.
Of the result, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I often see this happen. Workouts come out, people hit the roof and go, "Oh, I can't do this," or "I've never done that before, so I can't do it," and they panic. And actually, when most people get into the workouts, it's never as bad as they think. You always ask people afterwards, "How's that?" "Oh, it was alright actually." It very rarely is the worst thing, and I think that actually applies to bigger challenges as well. Yeah. For example, there'll be people listening to this podcast now saying, I could never do an Ironman or run a marathon. We've got loads of people doing it on Sunday actually.
Have you? Yeah.
Or Tough Mudder or these little things. But actually, and I think that's twofold. One, because in themselves they're panicking and they're listening to it's a 20-mile obstacle course and all this crazy catastrophizing, like you said. But also, I think people who've done the events often make it sound a lot worse than it actually is. You know, they go, like,
yeah, it was awful.
My time,
it
was
horrible.
the worst. Yeah, it was the coldest water ever, and it was the worst electric shocks ever, and all. You remember those events where you used to get electric shocked and like smokes in your eyes and stuff like that? They were ridiculous.
Weren't they the older Spartan races where you could get like cut by barbed wire and things?
But anyway, I think like people like to sort of be the warrior, don't they, about those things? And actually, when you get into those events, they're not that bad. You know, that you'll be okay. And the whole kind of concept of like, don't listen to the first report is let's not have a negative emotional reaction to these, things not going your way. You get a garbage workout that's announced for an open workout or whatever. Let's
walk in, it's an 8k row, and you're like, oh, God.
Exactly, yeah. First competition, walk in, 8k row. You've not been on a row for a little while. Let's try and manage that mental reaction, because it's going to have a positive physical benefit to you. Yeah, cool. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. A lot of us talking about our challenges. It'll be interesting to hear some of yours over the next week or so.
Yeah, I mean, talking about that, I've been thinking about this November.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
I'm thinking about Hero WOD month.
Right.
So coming in every day and doing a Hero WOD.
Nice.
Yeah. So
a lot more wear on the joints and things.
But you can. But the thing is that you can program it yourself. So you can alternate the volume and you know what I mean? Like do a longer one, then a shorter one, then a medium one. So I'm pretty set on that. I'm going to work out the logistics of it. And if that then gets confirmed, I'll put it in the group. Right, guys, today I'm doing this. It's at this time.
Yeah.
It'll be an open gym time.
See if anyone wants to do it with you.
Well, that's what I mean.
Based off this concept.
So everybody listening to this, if you look out for that, because each day in November I'll post the time, I'll post the workout. It'll be open gym. And then we can do it together.
Come and roll.
Yeah.
Wicked. Right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Hope you got something out of it. When shit hits the fan, don't listen to the first report.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you for listening to the ShireFit Podcast with Max and Jonny. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next week for another episode.